Hey guys, and welcome back to The Girl with the Shovel. I am Angela, and today we are going to make our own DIY potting mix for our houseplants. So to start off, I wanted to talk about some of the benefits of creating your own soil mix, and a lot of that is you know exactly what goes into it. I will not name names, but lately I've noticed quite a few soil mixes that have had a lot more just bark and stuff in them as kind of fillers. And while those are okay for some plants, they're not like the best. And a lot of times some companies are putting a lot of these things in as fillers that don't actually give our plants any nutrients, such as bark. Bark does not give your plant nutrients until it's fully composted. Some people think, oh, but it's organic material. No nutrients that are actually ready and available for your plants until it goes through that decomposition process. Adding these things to your soil is not really benefiting your plants until way further down in the road. That's why people do compost piles, is to break those things down. Anyways, long story short, making your own soil mix can be really great and can actually be better than some of these store-bought mixes because you can have very beneficial ingredients that you know that you add to the soil yourself. So let's get going. So in this simple DIY potting mix, this is good for general houseplants. I wouldn't put them in your like orchids, anthuriums, and your succulents. I'll tell you a little bit about that as we go along, but this basic mix has a few simple ingredients that you can find at pretty much any garden store. So first, you need a base material. Now the base material can either come in one of two ways. It can be in coco coir. These are the bricks that you can find. Usually they're sold in the springtime, labeled as seed starter mix. You can see my video here where I show you how exactly to rehydrate this into soil. So you can use coco coir mix, which is great because it is sustainable material that comes from coconuts, and it's also more pH balanced. Or you can also use peat moss, which I have this huge bag here. I buy it by the big bags. So here's my peat moss. I get it in the springtime when they have them out for the gardening supplies. So peat moss, it is not sustainable, but a lot of people use it still. It's very common, and you can find it, like I said, you can find it in the springtime, sold very cheaply in those big bags. I would normally go with the coconut coir, but I don't have it mixed right now. So I need to repot some of my plants. So I'm not going to go with the coconut coir today. I'm going to use the peat moss, but you can use either one. So once you have your base, you need some filler to kind of create aeration, okay? Now the best thing for this, some people use bark, like bark nuggets. Bark nuggets are a bit big, just orchid bark. But most people use perlite. So here's my bag of perlite here. So these things just kind of lighten up the soil, create those air pockets that your plants need, and so they don't get waterlogged and root rot easier, which is very important for your indoor plants. And then next, you need a fertilizer because while these things are great, they don't have a lot of nutrients in them. Coconut coir especially doesn't have any nutrients. Peat moss has a little bit more because it comes from an organic source, but you still want to add some nutrients. So I have two different things that I like to add. I like to add the earthworm castings, basically worm poop. And the earthworm castings are nice and organic and natural. And so this adds a little bit of nitrogen and a little bit of calcium. And it doesn't have a lot to it, but it is nice. So I'll add some of that. And then I also love the Osmocote slow release granules. So I'll show you a little bit about these later on in the video as I add them. but this is great because it adds a lot. So this has all of your nitrogen, phosphate, potassium. It also has some other things like magnesium, sulfur, boron, copper, iron, manganese, molybdenum, and zinc. So that's quite the list. So I love these things because they really make them full of nutrients for your plants. And this will feed it for up to 6 months. So then you won't even need to add any more fertilizer or anything for 6 more months. So love this stuff. So let's get into the mix. Now, to get a nice good balance of all of these things, I like to use 3 parts of my base, 2 parts of my aeration, so the perlite, 1 part fertilizer. So I'll kind of show you how to use that fertilizer. It really depends on what you're using because different fertilizers come at different rates. So I'll show you that. So I like to just do scoops because that really makes it easy. And then if you have a little bit of soil left over, then that's fine. I mean, you can never have too much soil, right? I just put it in a bin and store it. But so we're gonna start with the base. So for me, I'm using the peat moss right now. So I'm gonna use this little bowl just to make it nice and even, easy. So peat moss actually dries out a lot like the coconut coir. It dries out a lot too. So I'll definitely have to rehydrate my soil before I actually plant things in it. So I'll show you this and then I'll put in some water, let it soak in and kind of let it rehydrate that peat moss. Okay, and you do the same thing for coconut coir, except you have to rehydrate the coconut coir first. Whereas the peat moss, you can get away with mixing it first and then hydrating it. Number 3. Okay, and you can see it's getting pretty nice and dirty in here, but nice. There's just a few clumps since I've had this for a little while and it's gotten a little more dry. So I'm just taking a few of the chunks out. Now for my perlite. I ran out, so I had to buy a new bag. There's 1. And 2. Okay, so you see that? So we can add those in, mix that. I'll mix it all up when I'm done. Now I need to add the nutrients. Now this Osmocote, you really have to read the instructions as far as to get what it says because like I said, they have lots of different strengths. I know the Osmocote is one of the stronger ones out there, so it's a little bit more expensive, but you get more nutrients in each bit. I know like some of the other ones like the Miracle Grow a lot of times has weaker fertilizers because they don't want anyone to over fertilize. And so they purposely make it a little bit weaker so people can keep adding lots and lots and lots of fertilizer and not damage their plants. But you also don't get as much nutrients for the cost. So the best one that I found is the Osmocote. It recommends on the back 1 capful per 2-gallon pot. So my bowl here is about 1 gallon. So I'll use half a capful, and then they say for indoor plants to half that again. So it'll only be a 1/4 capful. Okay, so I'm gonna put that in here. Okay, and then pour it in, which really isn't that much. So I love that it'll go a long way. Now I'm gonna do my earthworm castings. So half a scoop of that. Here are the earthworm castings. Pouring it in. Oh, I love how just dark and rich that looks. Okay, so here it is. There you go. So now I'm just gonna mix it up. I'm just gonna hand mix it. And get a very nice little blend that my plants are gonna love and your plants are gonna love. Okay, and like I said, it's a little light because the peat moss is dehydrated right now. So once you add more water to it, it's gonna really darken up and look a lot more rich like you're used to seeing. Okay, here we go. So this is a very nice DIY houseplant soil that actually, for what I have, you can see this huge bag of peat moss. You can see these large bags of all of these other things and just how little of this I use. So I have a whole bunch of that left. I'm going to be able to make so much soil. So much soil. So it's actually more cost effective as well to mix your own than to buy them by the bag. Trust me, I have done that for many, many years and it adds up. So once you get into mixing your own soil, it greatly reduces the cost as well as it benefits your plants more because, like I said, we add our own nutrients, we add lots of things that you don't know exactly what you're getting in those other mixes. Okay, so this is wonderful. I'm gonna add some water to this and let it kind of sit for a little while, and I'm gonna mix it again and just let that peat moss rehydrate a little bit, and then you're done. Then you're ready to repot. A few extra tips when you're mixing your own soil. This is pretty light and nice because it has plenty of perlite, but if you're using it for cactus and succulent, for potting up your cacti and succulents, then you'll want to double the perlite. Okay, so definitely add more of that. So I would just, add another scoop or two. You could even, triple the perlite because your cactus and succulents want a lot more aeration. You can also add in sand instead of perlite. That will increase the aeration as well, but give it a bit more weight to it. Anything that's more upright, like your dracaena and stuff, in the smaller pots that if they might tip over, add sand instead of perlite. That will add a lot more weight to your pot, and so it'll help it kind of not tip over as much. So you can do that for your top heavy plants. And then for your orchids or like your anthuriums, I know also like the orchid mix, your bromeliads as well. So those plants, instead of using the peat moss, I would half that and then add in some orchid bark or, bark nuggets or something like that to add in that organic material and really, really aerate that soil. I'd probably do like 2 scoops of the peat moss, 2 scoops of the orchid bark, and then add in your nutrients. And you can get like either a slow release, but then also you spray on the foliar fertilizers for your orchids and such. Mess around with that. I'll probably do a video in the future about a specific mix for those types of indoor plants, but for now you should be pretty good with most of yours loving this soil mix. So let me know in the comments below if there's anything special that you add to your soil mix. I know a lot of people have little secret ingredients. And check out our Facebook group, Houseplants for Plant Killers. We love to talk more about our houseplants there and any problems that we have. And then if you like this video, go ahead and hit the thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.